Hey guys, ITAEWON Sammy here, king of gangnam, gangnam Sammy, coming to you live in full effect. I want to say hello to everyone out there. Thank you so much for watching and joining me today. Today we're going to talk about something really a lot of fun, and there's a reason why I'm going to talk about this today is the secrets of nightlife. Now, it's not specifically Korean nightlife, not specifically anything, but in general, this is what is going on in the world of nightlife world, the secrets of the nightlife world. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this was because, strangely enough, I guess I'm popular. I had a lot of people, you might know Vice website, Vice News, sort of like TMZ or something like that. It's an internet news website. So one of the reporters emailed me, and we had a call together a couple days ago. Was basically asking me to interview for the dark side of nightlife, of being a VIP host or of the nightlife. So I was a little bit wary about interviewing. The series that they're doing was all anonymous, so I'd be wearing a mask, my voice would be altered, and it would be like a scathing review of the nightlife. I mean, to be all honest, like, I never really seen anything. You know, I've lived in Korea 12 years, 12 and a half years. I've never seen anything that I haven't seen in any other club. Okay, well, let me take a step back. I haven't seen anything that would be deemed criminal. I've seen immoral things. I've seen things that, you know, are sketchy, like you do in any bar or club anywhere in the world. Pushing the limit of what basically it comes to, like, you know, physical contact, you know, sexual assault type of thing, or uninvited touching, things like that. But I've never seen the kind of violence or the kind of drugs that I saw in Canada. Canada, I saw a lot more than I do here. And yes, there is a dark side to the nightlife industry in Korea. Well documented years ago with the Burning Sun scandal. But what have I seen? What have I heard? Nothing. The club that I worked at, or the two clubs that I worked at in ITAEWON, were predominantly tourist clubs, so they were not the gangnam style. Gangnam style clubs are an entirely different entity. It's just not, unless you've lived in Korea, unless you've been in those clubs, I cannot describe it to you. You have no frame of reference. Forget, you know, even Vegas style clubs. It's just not the same. It is just, there is nothing. Maybe some Japanese might understand it. But it's not about sex or drugs or rock and roll. It's about the lifestyle, the culture, and the society. So anyway, I'm not going to get into it because there's so many blogs out there about this. What I'm going to talk about is not my experiences, but the overall nightlife situation. So the first thing you might ask is, why would anybody open up a bar? Well, it's fun. It is a fun business. But it is probably one of the most heavily regulated businesses besides gambling in the world. You pay way more taxes, but you're only open, depending on the type of establishment, 3-4 days a week. So you have to make most of your money in 3 or 4 days. And then you have seasonal cycles, weather cycles. Weather can affect your business. And obviously, COVID has affected those businesses quite a lot. A lot of people are saying, oh, those club owners and bar owners, landlords won't be able to survive. Oh yeah, they will. If you own the building, you don't own just one building. You own several. And it's an investment. So what happens is, in most countries, and a lot of people don't realize this because they're not property owners, commercial property owners. They're personal property owners, but not commercial. There's a difference. You may own your house, but you don't own commercial property. And here's where the difference is. Your profits are taxed at a higher level, especially in Korea. But if you lose money, you can write those off on your taxes. But if you lost more money than what you can write off on taxes, you can carry those forward. One very famous example is Trump. Those of you who have been following it, it was reported that he carried forward 10 years worth of losses and didn't pay taxes, federal taxes, for 10 years because he had enough losses to offset any taxes that he might have to pay. So the government won't penalize you for losing money. They'll only tax you on money you make. And if you lose too much money, they see that as a bad thing because you won't invest anymore. So what they do is allow you to offset any future tax on those losses. So, as a property owner in ITAEWON, not me, but if I was, and I would rather lose money on those buildings than even pay like rent it out for cheaper, because that will bring down the overall market for the future. And this thing will end. It will end, right? So when it does end and it goes back, probably within the next 3 months, they can go back to opening restaurants and bars and clubs and stuff like that and renting them out at the same rate. And the profits that they'll make, they can now, the last 2 years, they can offset those losses for 10 years, maybe 5 years at least. The losses were phenomenal. So that's another reason. Okay, now there is a potential criminal side to this. I have never seen it, but you don't need to be a rocket scientist to put 2 and 2 together. In Canada, I worked at a club, and it was Chinese, predominantly Chinese. I can talk about it today because it happened 30 years ago. They needed someone's name on the liquor license. It was my name on the liquor license. I kind of knew it back then, but I didn't really care because I was young. I was like 21, 22. I got paid an insane amount of money to be the bar manager, and I didn't understand why until later on, but you know, again, I said I didn't care. They needed somebody without a criminal record, without any connection to any family members in the business, because it was a money laundering operation. I wasn't allowed to count. I wasn't allowed to see the final count or the register tape. And I figured it out after pretty quickly because the staff were skimming so much money, and the owners didn't care. You know, the liquor was coming in and then going out. It was a busy place, but yeah, it was fishy from the beginning. Does that happen in Korea? I don't know. The people who I worked for were legit, but I have been to some venues and I have met some owners who I was like, and I can remember one club. I'm not going to say where. I'm not going to say when. Sorry. It was here in Korea, and it was about 10 years ago. And I do remember going there, and I was a regular. It was a big club. It was Korean. It wasn't a foreigner club. It was a Korean club. I was one of the few foreigners that was allowed to go there. Because at the end of the night, like around 3 or 4 in the morning, the gangsters would show up with their lady friends. And I mean, come on, a lot of pretty girls and everything, free drinks, and I don't want to say I was friends with them, but they kind of liked me. I spoke Korean. I was this funny guy. I was their age, so it's a very friendly society. Just because they're maybe criminals, um, doesn't mean they don't want to have fun. So, yeah, I saw that, and now when I think back on it, maybe that club could have been a front, um, but why do people? Why is it that criminal element? Because it's a cash business. So the alcohol comes in, you have to purchase that, right? So you get an investment and you purchase it. But if you don't sell it, you can just take it and sell it bootleg, right? And then you charge an insane amount of money. And you say, okay, that bottle, I didn't sell it by the shot, I sold it at a table. And that table cost, and if you look at the prices of tables in Korea, a table, 10 bottles of champagne, $5,000. $5,000. You heard me right. $5,000. There are some clubs in Gangnam where the minimum charge for a VIP table is over $1,000. One bottle, maybe two. $1,000. Now the most expensive bottle of champagne is like $400 for a Dom Perignon. But it's a 500% markup. At my club, the bottles started at 500 for one bottle and went up from there. So that would be probably probably the bottle costs $50 at the store, and we're charging 500. So I'm not good at math. You do that math. So there is how they can inflate the price of inflate the revenue that's coming into the venue without having to sell 1,000 drinks. They can say, cops can come and say, well, we only saw 400 people. How did you sell that much alcohol? Table. Right? So you got to think about that. So those are cash businesses. Strip clubs and bars and restaurants and any cash kind of business. High volume. So yeah, that's the dark side of that business. Dealing with those types of people. There is always, the violence that occurs when people get drunk. It happened in Korea, mostly with foreigners. It does happen with Koreans. It does. But the biggest problem that was reported, it doesn't happen with Korean on Korean because unfortunately they accept it. Korean girls won't. Sorry, let me say it a different way. For the most part, what I witnessed and what I experienced, so I'm not saying this is in generality, from what I witnessed and experienced, in a situation where a Korean girl is groped or feels uncomfortable, she'll just leave. She won't make a fuss. That's what I've seen. I've had to actually step in and tell the guy or call security because the girl wouldn't do anything. Where I've witnessed it is where a Western female is accosted by a Korean male because they feel that that's acceptable to do it, to grab. I'm not talking about molestation or anything like that. I'm talking Korean guys will grab you by the arm to talk to you. That's the thing. But it's unwanted touching. Now, if a Western guy tried that with a Korean girl, there would be a problem. The Korean girl would get upset. but it's like catcalling, like what we used to do when we were kids. When I say kids, when we were teenagers, driving up and down the street in our cars with the music on and blah blah blah, whatever. So it's just evolved. So there's that. There's it's never happened in our club. I'll tell you that. The spiked drinks and stuff like that. There's too many cameras. There's way too many cameras in our club. And we're talking night vision cameras. You can see everything that goes on. And we have a team watching it. They're constant, like we had an observation room. So it was like a casino. We watch everything. Not only just the cash and the bar, but the club for security. So for safety, you don't want that reputation. Because that's what happens, people get one bad thing happens, it spreads like wildfire. So, yeah, I didn't go down that road with them because I didn't want to, and they didn't want to pay me. I said, how much does it cost? How much is not cost. What is the payment going to be? And they said, there's no payment. I said, well, I'm not interested. If I'm going to provide you with, content, you have to pay me for my content. So, and I really didn't have anything to say, that could be used for a story unless I made something up. If they were going to pay me, I probably would have made something up because I would have been anonymous, right? So, and it's not verifiable. They just want some salacious stuff for their story. And that's why I didn't do it. They want that story. That's why I don't talk to the media or anything like that, because what I want to report will never be reported because it just doesn't sell news, right? And that's what the media is all about. It's about selling clicks or news for the commercials. The more viewers they get, the more they can charge for commercials. And that's all it is. So, yeah. So that is the dark side of the business. I've talked about the cons of being a worker, like a VIP host, and you can check out my videos in the past, the hours, the alcohol, the stress and stuff like that. So not being able to go out, etc., those things. But this is the dark side of the actual business. I, again, will say I've never seen it. I've never been involved in it. I don't personally know anything about it. I can infer in certain situations certain things, but I have no evidence or no proof. So we'll leave it at that. ITAEWON Sammy, King of Gangnam, talking to you. Please stay safe, be happy, be healthy.